Good evening and welcome to this evening's webinar with myself, Russell Davis, on behalf of More to Life. Just before I do get started, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping just to make sure people are comfortable with how this is going to work and how to interact. But just to make sure I'm not, speaking into a black hole, and to make sure you can hear me. And also to show you how you can ask questions. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a sidebar. And one of those tabs on the sidebar should say chat. And if you find that, and see someone has found it already, if you type anything in that chat box, it comes to me. It doesn't go to everyone else, it just comes to me, and I'll explain why that. But that's the way you can ask questions. If I say, I typed here, I typed hi, everyone should be able to see that. And then, if you can hear me, just say hi or something in there, just so I know the technology is working. Otherwise, I should be talking into a black hole. I'd like to check it's all working first before I get too far into it. So I'm just going to pause for a minute just to make sure people have found that and people can hear me. So that's the way you can ask questions at any point. I may pause for questions at some point, or anything comes to mind, just type it into that chat box, and then I'll go to get that. Great, they're all coming in now, so excellent. Thank you. They are private, no one else can see those messages, it's just me, so it's a way you can ask questions. And thank you for those who've gone into contact beforehand by email. I have a number of questions that come in already, so I hope to be covering those, and I should go to them, or as many as we can, at the end, to make sure I've covered off those questions as well. So great, that's how you ask questions at any point. Just put them in there, and I shall check them every now and then. So I should be prepared to move on, because we've actually kind of started, haven't we, really? Let me just get these slides sorted out. Here we are. So, finding purpose in life. Yeah, quite a big subject for an hour or so, but let's see where we get to. Let's see what fun we can have with this. A bit about, I guess most people know about More to Life, but those who don't know about More to Life are part of the national charity Infertility Network UK, and they support those who are living without children. More to Life offer the chance to find and meet others who understand and accept without any questions or assumptions. As we know in this journey, a lot of people don't really understand what it's like unless you're kind of in the situation. And I love how More to Life provide this place where people can be, meet others, find inspiration and encouragement as you explore new ways of life, which More to Life, and I believe you can find ways which can be joyful and satisfying. A bit about me. My name is Russell Davis. I'm the founder of The Fertile Mind. I'm a coach and a cognitive hypnotherapist. I work with a lot of women all over the world, some men as well. I do coaching and hypnosis for people on their fertility journey, but also for people who finish their journey. And I do coaching for a lot of people outside of the whole fertility sphere. For people, life coaching, kind of business coaching, and a lot of people going through life changes. A lot of people who suddenly, at some point, myself included, I'll share my story a bit later on, get to a point in life realizing they're not really happy. They may be in a career that they're not sure how they got there, and wanted to find a more purposeful, fulfilling career in life. Or they're doing something and they're not really believe they're reaching their full potential. So I do a lot of coaching of people, helping to understand themselves more and to find that life of passion and purpose. If people ask me in one sentence what I do, whoever I'm working with, I like to think I help them find a life of passion and purpose. I do quite a lot of work with Infertility Network UK, hence my connection with them and More to Life. And a bit of background, I did this a version of this kind of webinar for Infertility Network UK, and they thought it'd be great to offer it to you guys. So I'm really, really pleased to be doing this now. I did notice one of the emails you'd have got beforehand, I'm very sorry, was worded for the previous webinar and wouldn't be so suitable for you guys, but I'm really, really excited about this evening and what I'm going to share with you, and yeah, and what other support we can maybe grow from this time. So that's a little bit about me. Another thing about me, I'm a big fan of barefoot running, those funny shoes, minimalist kind of running shoes. In the summer, I don't wear any shoes while running. I'm a big Apple Mac fan, and I love anything to do with the mind, hence what I do. So that's a little bit about me. I thought it'd be nice to see a photo and see something about me, see, put a face behind the voice. So, finding purpose in life, because a bit about me first. Let's bit about my story, because a lot of you haven't heard me speak or know much about me at all. My wife and I had a 10-year infertility journey. We did go on to have a son in the end, but the main reason I'm doing what I do, as in being a coach and a cognitive hypnotherapist, is I got to a stage in the midst of our journey, in the 8 years in, we hit kind of a rock bottom, and we were told it's a 1 in a billion chance of us ever having children. It was really everything kind of, the journey basically come to an end effectively, and it was an interesting time for me. And I look back and I see actually it was the toughest time at the time, but I can look back and see in many ways it was my kind of wake-up call for life. My wife started going through a grieving process, but I didn't. I would say I was angry, but I wasn't really feeling the anger like she was feeling all sorts of emotions and feelings. And I began to recognize it's because, for me, feelings, I had this kind of metaphor that I wasn't so consciously aware of this until I got to this point in my life, that I had this thing about feelings just don't go there. They were in a big bin with a big lid on it, with a big brick on the lid to stop them getting out. And even on our journey, fertility journey, I thought I had to be the strong one, and I kind of buried my emotions. But I realized the real reason I buried my emotions was full of stuff from my past, childhood. Nothing majorly traumatic, but a lot of stuff. And I just kind of just buried it. And for me, I guess it's like a protection mechanism. And I lived in my head, in my thinking. I was a big thinker, a big worrier, quite a big people pleaser, really wanting people to like me, because if I'm really honest, I didn't think they'd like me for who I am, and I thought I had to really earn people's kind of respect or acceptance. I also grew up in an environment where everything was hard work. Well, not. I was taught that everything was hard work. You got to work and put a lot of effort in to what you want to achieve in life. And often in life, that kind of does succeed to a degree in careers and other things. You know, we knuckle down and work really hard and set a target or a goal, and we can often get to that goal with all that dedication and hard work and planning and just thinking about things. And we try and attain and work towards what we want in life. And so we got to this kind of point in our journey, and I had this kind of awareness that, you know what, I'm not really feeling these feelings. There's stuff I'm not really connected with myself, and I was really kind of quite low in life generally at that point, because I really thought for us having children would be a new season in our life with all sorts of challenges in our life, and it was impacting all sorts of things. And I thought having children could be a ticket for a new sign of God's blessing and a new season for us where we're going to be happy. Of course, then it wasn't happening. And I just took myself away on a retreat. I suddenly woke up one morning and said to my wife, I need to go on pretty much a silent retreat just to be with myself. And I hadn't done anything like that before in my life. My wife thought I was quite mad, because she knew I loved my internet and being busy, and just I never really sat still. But I had a real sense I needed to sit still and be with me and just reassess life and face these feelings, or face myself and be with myself away from distraction. So I took myself actually to a convent for a week there. Very nicely said I could go and stay for a week and just be. And it was quite a life-changing experience in many ways, where I just really sat with myself. And on one of the points, one point on beginning of that kind of time there, I sat in these gardens, and they're beautiful gardens, and there's some vegetable patches. There are 2 vegetable patches. One was full of life and all these vegetables growing, and the other was empty. And I looked at that vegetable patch, and I thought, well, that's my life. It's just barren. It's just empty. I'm in a job I don't really enjoy. People on the outside, particularly my mum, I guess, thought it was a really good, safe career, nice big company, and good prospects. And I was doing really well. So on the outside, it was looking all very successful, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't didn't feel to be me. It's like I hung my soul up on the door as I went in. I was good at it, and they loved me when I was there, and I tried to leave, and they wouldn't let me leave, but it wasn't kind of really me. If I'm really, really, really honest, I think I wasn't truly happy in my relationship and my marriage. And I can look back now and think, actually, part of me got mad thinking it would make me happy. And then we couldn't have children. And I was looking at other people and their lives and thinking, everyone else is just getting on with their lives. Everyone else seems to be creating a life they want of happiness, fulfillment. They seem to get what they want in life so much easier than me. There must be something wrong with me that I can't create a life of happiness. I can't really be fulfilled. I don't understand it. Life seems to be harder for me than other people. And during that week, I just did a lot of connecting with myself and just being with feelings. A lot of feelings came up, grief, all sorts of feelings. I cried quite a lot. And I recognized at the core, actually, for me, there was a lack of self-love for myself. And I could see, actually, one of my mindsets in life had been I was a victim, that life wasn't fair. Grew up in a very kind of strict environment where my mum ordained to bless us with something good or not, and it was very hard to work out as and when and what the rules were to that, so you didn't feel very much in control of your happiness in many ways. I couldn't just be me. I grew up in a Christian environment where, I'm not saying all of the church, but the church we particularly went to, or the churchmanship, or where we went to, talked about a God of love, but there seemed to be all these hurdles between me and that love. And I grew up with a sense of, was I really loved and accepted for who I am? And hence, I mentioned a lot of people pleasing, thinking that people wouldn't accept me for who I am. So I grew up focusing on other people, focusing on meeting other people's expectations, my mum's, teachers, all sorts of things. And I went to a very academic school, and I excelled academically because I knuckled down and thought that's what I needed to do. It's where I thought people would like me or be pleased, and I'd be the good one, and I'd be accepted because I'd done all these things. I wasn't consciously aware of this at the time. And so my career went on. I got a good job, and I always found decisions very difficult, keeping my options open, from university courses to jobs and all sorts of things. And I was quite happy in my job, so I thought. But life went on, got married, and here I was in my mid-30s, just reassessing the whole of life. And towards the end of my time at that conference, I sat and looked at the same 2 vegetable patches, and one was still empty, hadn't changed. But I looked at the empty one, and I thought, well, that's my life. It's a blank canvas. It's a blank canvas. It's not filled with all the things I thought I wanted or needed. My life isn't nothing like what I expected it to be. But I realized I could begin to create more of a life of happiness and fulfillment. I could go on a journey to really find out who I am, what I want to do in life. what makes me happy, what am I passionate about. And that was the beginning of my journey to really find out who I am, what I want to do. And it led to some dramatic changes in my life. I resigned from my job, just resigned. Couldn't bear the thought of being there 6 months' time. And I thought I needed to kick up the backside to go on this journey to really establish who I am and what I wanted to do. I became fanatical about understanding who I am. I did the cognitive therapy course mainly to really understand more about me, and actually fell in love with it and started practicing it. Got a coach, read books. And what I want to share this evening is some of the things I really learned on my journey, personally in my journey, but also some of the things I share with my clients as well. So hopefully to give you some inspiration, and also some maybe equipping you to begin perhaps go on your journey to rediscover who you are and what can make you fulfilled in life. Because I really find all the things that stop us being happy is thinking that our circumstances creates how we feel. Thinking that I'm happy if ... or I'm happy when ... And I can see, looking back at my childhood, I was really in that kind of mindset. We're not born with this thinking. We actually come into this world with a sense of connection to our true self. Little babies, little children, just being who they are. Then as stuff happens, as we grow up, whether it's through parenting or schooling, we can often start to think our sense of being okay is dependent on things outside of us. I'm okay if I get the positive reinforcement from my mum. I'm okay if I get the right grades, or my friends think I'm okay. And we start to look outside of us for a sense of being okay. And we see it in adults around us who think they're okay if they've got the latest car, or the latest phone, or a certain bank salary, a bank balance. But the thing is about that, looking outside of us for this sense of well-being, is we're looking in the wrong place. Our sense of well-being is within us. We're born with it. But as we get caught into our thinking, we start looking in the wrong place. We start looking outside of us. And when I'm working with couples or women on their fertility journey, I'm quite frank about this. That a lot of people I work with, and I include myself in this, I was very much in this place. I really thought having a baby was going to make me happy or give me a sense of purpose. But the truth is, nothing outside of us can do that. It comes from within. When we connect to our true self within, that's where we can find our true sense of who we are, and contentment and purpose. And whenever we go through big life changes, or life doesn't go as we expect, what we need to do is retune into ourselves and understand who we really are. Because often we just got out of habit, we've got tuned into the stuff outside of us. We got looking in to senses of circumstances and people to create the feelings we want. So I'm okay if, or I'm okay when. But if we point ourselves back into ourselves, we can realize actually we are okay, and we can understand who we are and what really makes us tick, and what we're passionate about and what we want to achieve in our lives. And I'm going to share some tools to help you begin that exploration, to going back within and finding out what really makes you tick. So what underpins everything I do is helping people let go of all this thinking in the head that is looking in the wrong place, that is actually preventing us from really seeing what's inside us already, our sense of self. I could really see I was lost. I didn't know who I was. I was seeking happiness through my job, my marriage, and then wanting to have children. And then I really found myself, and I began to create a life of passion and purpose. I resigned from my job. I retrained in things I really enjoyed doing. And I really found I could wake up and be paid for being me. This was all before we had children. I could really align to my sense of self. So often we find life has been put on hold for so long, and then suddenly, what next? Suddenly, what next? And that's what I want to begin to realize is the what next, I think, starts with turning back within to ourselves and understanding who we are. Because we lose, I sense through life, sometimes we just get disconnected from who we really are and who we want to be and what we want to create in our life. And when we talk about a life of purpose, often people don't realize actually it's not as if there's a map that directs us to our sense of purpose. We don't wake up and think, that is it. I found my sense of purpose. This quest for our purpose, and we find the golden chest and we open it up and there it is, a scroll with our purpose written on it. It's a journey of self-discovery, and for me, it's about following one breadcrumb at a time. One breadcrumb at a time as we begin to discover who we really are. I've been working with actually an investment banker recently who's just not content in his job. And he really was looking for this path to where he wants to be. And wants the roadmap, the plan that's going to get him there. And he's really beginning to discover actually it's about understanding who he is. And that gives him an insight or inkling about what he might want to do more what he loves, to begin to discover who he is. As I guide him on this journey, slowly the fog is clearing. And things are getting a bit more clearer and clearer about who he is and what he loves to do and the impact he wants to make in the world. For me, the phrase I used beginning my journey was follow your bliss. That became my mantra, to really discover what I like, what I want to do, who I really am. And I started doing more things I enjoy just for the hell of it. We lose that sense of play in life. As adults, we lose that sense of play. Play is doing something just for the hell of it, not for any particular outcome, because we enjoy it. It makes our hearts sing in some way. So for me to begin to discover who I was, I started just to play more. For example, I quite liked photography, and I just did more photography. I don't think it's any good at it at all. I'd never really done much photography, but I just think I'd enjoy that. I want to do more of that. I never thought I was creative. Rubbish at art at school. Never thought I was creative. But actually, I now know through research and my retraining and everything else, we're all creative. Some people just think they're creative, and other people don't think they're creative. Actually, we're all creative in very different ways. Creativity doesn't just mean art. In my scientific head back then, I thought creativity just meant being good at art. But I designed a website, something I was interested in about environmental living. I just designed this website because I wanted to do it. I enjoy the design process. Whether I was good at it or not doesn't really matter. I started following my bliss. Because for me, finding our sense of purpose, it's a bit like dating. It's a bit like finding a life partner. You don't walk into a room, see this man across the room and think, it's them. I'm going to marry that person. I'm going to spend the rest of my life with that person. That can happen, and I hear some stories that occasionally that does happen. I know a friend who met someone and within 10 days proposed, and they're very happily married. many years later. That's not usually the way it happens. What we tend to do is keep our eyes open, have a look around, see what catches our eye. Something just grabs our attention, or someone grabs our attention in some way, captivates us in some way. We're quite intrigued or interested. We want to know more. So you might go on a date. It may work out, it may not. It might go on a second one, it may not. You might go on another date with someone else. We start to flirt with what's out there and test it out. Is it going to work? Is it connecting? Is it possibly going to be someone we want to go out with, or explore it? And that's why I encourage you to begin to discover who you are. Is to flirt with ideas. Just play. Begin to retune in who you really are. It sounds a bit frivolous, or a bit light. It sounds a bit kind of, I'm not sure the word comes to mind. For something to try to find a life purpose, sometimes this encouragement, just flirting with ideas, we can't sometimes see how that's going to really connect with the deeper us, but it's a way in. It's almost to really get to know yourself and really understand who you really are and what your makeup is. Because when we've been so focused down a particular path, where our expectations are life is going to be A, B, and C, that's all future thinking. We've been living our life in a tunnel of thinking, like having blinkers on. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. But that future thinking disconnects us from who we really are. There's two guidance mechanisms within us. When people ask me, how do we find that our guidance mechanism? How do we know what we want to be doing? Well, the first thing is to recognize there's two guidance mechanisms within us. One is our thinking. The other is our intuition, our instinct. Two different voices we have within us. And we get trained into listening to our thinking. But our thinking is all about the past and projecting into the future. I'm okay if, or I'm okay when, or thinking you need this to happen or that to happen, or it takes experiences and thinking from the past, and we see life through those lenses. It's not grounded in the here and now, and it disconnects us from our true self. Our instinct, that's a much better guidance mechanism to life. I call it your wisdom, because your instinct includes your life experience, your knowledge, your intellect, and it's connected to our true self. So trust your instinct, play with ideas, flirt with ideas, and follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. Now, the risk of lowering or getting a bit heavy and a bit morbid, there's only two guarantees in life. One is that we're going to die. And the second one is we don't know when. My father died 2 years ago, and he was diagnosed with a degenerative disease. And it was a massive wake-up call for him and all of us, and because he was fit and well, and suddenly had this diagnosis that basically said he was dying. Of course, we're all dying, but suddenly he was dying far quicker than we ever thought or dreamt. And actually, for him, I'm pleased for him, it was quite quick in the end, and he didn't have to suffer very long. But it was a wake-up call to recognize the fragility in life, My wife had an accident a couple of years ago and broke her back. Again, that was a wake-up call in the fragility of life. Thankfully, she has her full mobility and it hasn't been life-changing. But it could have been so easily, so easy life-changing or even fatal. So life can be quite fragile. And I actually encourage people to get in touch with their own mortality. Sometimes I like to have lunch in our local graveyard because it just helps me reassess life and the priorities in life. What's important to me? Helps me recognize that sometimes we get caught up into the smallest things in life and forget the really big things. And for me, a couple of questions that I find helpful with myself and with clients to help reassess what's really important to us is, what kind of person do I want to show the world each day? How do I want to use the rest of my life? And it's about accepting we were living in this expectation tunnel, but suddenly life's taking a different turn. We weren't expecting to be here. But given we are here, and we're here not out of choice, we didn't expect to be here, but it's circumstances. Our circumstances are not as we expect. But we're still us, the us that came into this world. That's who we are. We're not our circumstances. Our thinking thinks we are. Our thinking thinks our sense of well-being or happiness or fulfillment is dependent on circumstances. But the truth is it's not. The mind doesn't work that way. It's impossible for anything to make you feel anything. Some people say they're in a very stressful job, but the job doesn't have the power to make them feel stressed. It's what we think of the job creates our experience. It's what we think about our circumstances creates our experience. And we're not our thinking. We're not our thinking. We're deeper than that. We're this soul with talents and passions and all sorts of things. And the thing is, we get caught into living in our life through our thinking for so long, we disconnect from who we really are. And I believe we all have a sense of purpose when we look beyond being a parent. I think we all have something within us that we can grow, secret dreams, desires, fantasy dreams we never thought would be possible, or we just think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. There's something inside, a little whisper of something we'd love to do or create in our life. I believe we all have an ability to create a legacy, or how do you want to be remembered? And what great cause would keep me going when I feel weak or distracted? A sense of bigger purpose. Positive psychology is a form, a form of an area of psychology that's very, very new. It's only probably about 10 or so years old. Psychology, for most of its, as an industry, it's a fairly new industry anyway, but psychology, for the history of psychology, has basically been studying unhappy people and working out what they can do to make them less unhappy. Martin Seligman was a psychologist. He thought, why aren't we studying happy people and studying what makes them happy? So he started this thing called positive psychology, where he started studying happy people. And he, through his studies and research, came up with these 3 levels of happiness: pleasant life, a contented life, and a fulfilled life. A pleasant life is where we have these things that make us happy for a short time. A holiday maybe, or a new purchase or something. But it's not lasting happiness. A contented life is where we have things in life that make us more contented, deeper, kind of more lasting happiness. Maybe we're in a job that really we enjoy. We find a sense of contentment in what we're doing, or through friendships, or other things we really enjoy doing. Then there's another level of happiness, which is a fulfilled life. And he says that's like a contented life, but then a sense of purpose to it, a sense of working towards a bigger picture, something beyond us. And that's why I say, well, the great cause will keep me going when I feel weak or distracted. What is there something beyond us that we can really tune into and feel that we're working towards something even bigger than us, serving in some way? So maybe some questions there can start to help again, begin to point yourself back into yourself and to see what comes to mind. Now I want to share another little tool that I found really, really quite powerful on my journey. And it's another way of just, again, understanding who we are, what makes us tick a bit more. And it works on the premise that there's 3 areas of us, personality, when they come aligned, that's when we really feel we're living a life of purpose. Now, the first area is anger. And you're going to get a copy of this video, so you can come refer back to this at the time to make loads of notes. But so the first area is anger, and I encourage you to just to get a bit of paper and list out what things in life generally make you angry. It could be the smallest things or the biggest things. So for me, it was things like drivers on a phone, seeing someone on their phone really makes me angry. Children being misunderstood, or just mistreatment of the planet. 3 examples. I could probably think of a lot more, but there's some of the 3 examples when I first did this. So you list out just all sorts of things that make you angry, that really kind of rattle your cage. And when you list out those things, you might see a theme appearing. So for me, seeing drivers on a phone, being children misunderstood or mistreatment of the planet, for me the theme of injustice comes out. Drivers on the phone, I think, how come they think it's okay for them to do that and risk other people's life? It's about injustice of not looking after the planet, and I think it's quite unjust, and how some people think they can get away of just littering the place and not taking care of the planet and think everything's going to be okay and someone's going to pick up the pieces. So that's, for me, some of the things that make me angry, and there's some of the things on the list when I first did it. And for me, the kind of thing that tied it together was this theme of injustice. The second one is passion. What are you passionate about? And sometimes it can go back to looking over your life, and even back to child. What kind of some of the things you're doing when your mum or your parents called you for tea for the 3rd time? So for me, things I'm passionate about is I like helping people thrive. Even when I was in a very different career, I was working after teams and people. I wanted to see teams and the organisations thrive, and working out what we can do to get out the blockages and help people just be inspired and enjoy what they're doing, and see the success they can and the difference they can make in that way. Community, I love community. We used to do street parties and all sorts of things and building community. Innovation, I love innovation. I mentioned always love. I love Max and technology. I love innovation. And when I look through the list, and there are others, but I'm just giving examples, 3 examples there. The theme that came out for me was people. It was people. even innovation is kind of comes from someone's mind. Third area is talent. Now we can be very British about this, but I want you to put aside our Britishness and really think about, what are you good at? What are you good at? And make a list. Some of the things you're good at. Maybe ask friends and family you respect what they think. Some of the things that came out for me was communication, caring, listening, problem solving. Now, to be honest, I did have a bit of problem in this area of teasing out the word, and really, I did. It's very, very British. I don't know. I couldn't possibly say that, but I had a coach, and he helped me kind of through this process, and came up and helped me come up with the word leadership. Now, leadership doesn't necessarily mean leading a group of people, being at the top of the pack. That's not what leadership is about. Leadership can involve leading a group, but you can be a leader on your own. So for that area, the word leadership kind of sums up or summarize my list. Now, when these three areas of life come together, anger, passion, and talent, the bit in the middle where they all overlap, those times in your life when you're integrating all those three, that's when you feel a sense of purpose. Life just feels like flowing. You're like aligned. You're aligned to your sense of identity and purpose, and what you're doing is aligned in that to all those things. And again, to help tease out what that may be, there's a phrase you can use to help put these pieces of jigsaw together. Say, my purpose is to use my talent and my passion to do something, a suitable verb, about what makes you angry. My purpose is to use my talent and passion to do something about what makes me angry. So in my example, it was my purpose is to use my leadership and love of people to do something about the injustice to people. It's very clunky. What kind of people? Is it adults? Is it children? But for me, it's helped just to begin to point myself or point yourself in the right direction. Begin to explore what perhaps really does light your fire. I've done this with loads of people, and it's amazing how they just have an aha moment. It just resonates with them. And then we can begin to explore deeper about what it is. What particularly for them would it mean be doing in that area? And this was the beginning of me to really realize I wanted to be working with people and not in a business environment, because it was too constraining. It wouldn't allow me to really grow people in the way I want to allow them to reach their full potential and live a life of passion and purpose. So that little kind of very simple, something that can't be that simple, but in my experience, it really can be that simple. A way of really begin to point us into the right direction of who we are and what begins to light our fire. Because I really do believe we have a sense of purpose even beyond having children. And we can begin to be tuned back into ourselves, strip away all the thinking, the expectations, the fears, the thinking, the doubts. Many fears is one of the biggest things that comes up. That's a type of thinking, it's a feeling, it's a thought that often prevents us from really tuning into who we are and our hopes and dreams. And because we all have amazing potential within us. We all have an amazing potential within us. A potential we often don't really allow ourselves to tap into. A potential that we really don't allow ourselves to acknowledge. What comes to mind is I mentioned I'm a very keen runner, and I used to run head down, just determination, going to complete this run, the distance I want, at the best time possible, and push myself forward and really go for it. I used to listen to loud music. I show my age, Rocky theme tune, just this pumping training music to really inspire me and push me forward. I now run in a very, very, very different way. As I said, I run barefoot, and that for me is a very different approach. I'm far more in tune with my body. You have to be in tune, being in tune with the soles of your feet and being in tune with the ground. And for me, it's like a meditation. I don't listen to music. I'm in tune with my body in that moment. I have an aspiration. I have a goal. I have an aspiration of how far I want to go and what kind of time I'd like to do. So my unconscious mind knows that. My soul knows that. And then I just be in the moment. Just connecting to my body in that moment, which makes it like a meditation, because thinking is all about the past and the future. I don't think about what hills are coming up and how am I pacing, how am I doing, and I don't have a strategy. It goes back to dating. You can't have a strategy for dating. Oh, we had one particular friend that always had a strategy about the women he was interested in, that woman interested in, that woman's going to do that, they're going to do that. Well, these women never showed an interest in him. You can't date by a strategy. You can't think your way through dating. We try and think our way through life, all this future thinking. When I strip away that future thinking, even just in running, and be present to my body in the moment, one breadcrumb at a time, just I can be aware what pace I want to be doing in that moment, what feels comfortable for me in this moment. It's amazing how I can run further and faster in that way with less injuries and enjoy it more, because I'm more in tune with me, connected to myself, also connected to nature, connected to others. We're more connected when we're out of our thinking and tuned into our sense of self. So the tunnel of thinking, the expectations, the future thinking, for me, says life needs to be a certain way for us to be okay. Our thinking says we need life to be a certain way to be okay. It's like me saying I need to get to that end of that run by a certain time, otherwise I'm not going to be okay, I'll be disappointed. But that's the thing about expectations. Expectations are all future thinking, and if they're not met, it leads to disillusionment, frustration, and disappointment. If we're more just present to the moment, in tune to ourselves, we can flirt with ideas, we can see new opportunities, and we can see a new side and sense of ourselves, which can open up all sorts of opportunities for us, and opportunities to realize we have so much more power and well-being within us we ever dreamed of. I'm quite conscious of the time, and I'm going to move on to some of the questions I've had sent to me, and feel free to type in any questions in the chat box while I do this, because I'm sure some of these questions are going to spark some other things as well. So some of the questions are, first one, I'd like to know how to handle feeling different from everyone else and left out. It's amazing how society has its expectations on us. And if we don't meet that expectation, we can be singled out. Almost how society assumes so much about people. And if you don't meet that kind of model or expectation, then we can really feel left out. So often friendships are formed and created from NCT groups and at school gates, and always assumed that through parenting and that kind of style that connections are made, and talk about babies, and it's all kind of assumes that people are on the same page or in the same place. So I can really relate to be feeling left out if you're not in that same place. But one thing I say about this feeling different is, for me, it's recognizing where our feelings come from. Because the feeling we have is not about our situation and being different to other people. It is what we think about it, and our assumptions what other people think about it. So it's recognizing actually our experience of our circumstances is what we're thinking about it, not the circumstances themselves. That's why some days it feels better and easier than others. The circumstances haven't changed, but our thinking about it has. Another thing is actually often we feel left out by the way other people behave, the things they say or don't say or do or don't do. And often we have an expectation of how they need to be or should be. But the truth is they're never really going to understand because they're not in the situation. And they're just caught in their thinking and their stuff. And if we're caught in our thinking, we make it about us. We make it about us. It's just their thinking, their stuff. Another thing that comes to mind, the word comes to mind is self-compassion as well. I think quite often we're hard on ourselves. Which is why I love an organisation like More to Life. It's why I give so much of my time to Infertility Network UK, because I think recognising the other people in the situation and connecting to the other people and recognising, yeah, sometimes it is really, really tough. And it's okay to accept that it is tough and have some self-compassion for ourselves, because we don't expect to get that compassion from people around you. Another question is, how do you move on and put it behind you as it seems like it never goes away or diminishes? For me, it's about accepting in some way it's not going to go away. The circumstances may not change, but we always have a choice. It's like me and those vegetable patches. I have a choice. Either be a victim and think life is doing this to me, I have no choice, I'm a victim in all this. Or I can look at it and say, okay, this isn't as I expect, but I can create more of a life of passion and purpose. And I really believed, and I got to a place where I believed I could be fulfilled even without children. Because I started to realize I'm far more creative. We all are. We're creative beings. We can create more of the life we want when we let go of our expectations of how life should be. Expectations are future thinking. Expectations are toxic on any environment, any setting, any situation. Expectations between two people, they're unspoken agreements. No one likes expectations put on them. Expectations, if they're not met, lead to disillusionment, frustration, disappointment. Expectations take away the opportunity for gratitude and appreciation. I could do a whole different talk on expectations, but in summary, that's, yeah, expectations are kind of future thinking. It's all toxic because nothing can predict the future. And expectations are thinking trying to predict the future. But the future doesn't exist. Nothing can predict the future. And expectations are telling us that we need the future to be a certain way. But the truth is our well-being is not dependent on something that doesn't exist, as in the future. We're not designed to live in the future. As a species, we're designed to live in the moment. We wouldn't survive if we weren't designed to live in reality, in the moment. And expectations is telling us, it's almost denying reality and telling us how things should be different. That's a thinking habit we pick up, often from a young age. I'm going to rattle through these questions because there's quite a few, and I'm going to say this now, I'll say again at the end. Please, please, please feel free to get in touch if you want to continue the conversation. And I'll explain a little bit more how I want to offer something, all of you listening, something to enable you to do that. Because I know this is a really, really big subject to try and cover in one evening. I just wanted to introduce some ideas and concepts to you that you may find useful, and we can hopefully somehow continue the conversation. Another question is, how do I handle people asking on a daily basis if you have children or family? And this is I love this question. What we found on our journey, we agreed a set response. Now, I haven't thought this through whether this is going to work for you or not. But we found we had a set response when people were saying, "Oh, are you going to have children?" We just said, "We're not sure if we can have children, but we're okay with that, and that's okay." Whether we truly believed it was okay, that's a different thing. We didn't at the time. But for us, being that level of honesty, we never shared who the problem was with or any details. We both agreed as a couple that's how we're going to approach it. And it's amazing how that little bit of honesty and just frankness shut the conversation down because the other person was almost too embarrassed to continue it. I'm not saying you use those words. I'm saying it might be worth to think about a set response that you and your partner are happy to use. You might have 2 or 3 based on who asks, whether you want to be more authentic with someone you're closer with, or it's someone who think that's a bit cheeky, and you have a bit more of a cheeky response. We had just kind of one response, but once the client said, actually, I'm going to need 3. I need the cheeky response for someone who thinks you're just a bit cheeky to ask that. I need the authentic response for closer friends. So she decided she needed 3, but we just kind of had 1. And I'm not sure, I'm not kind of giving any indication what those words could be, but it is really tough when people are asking. And if you just have a set response, you don't have to think about it or get caught up in it. And it's amazing, a little bit of honesty, depending on how much honest you are or how much we're prepared to share, just enables the conversation to stop. So that's one thing we did in our journey, which you may want to consider. Another thing is to recognize it's just their thinking, their expectations, their stuff. How do you cope with family get-togethers when everyone else is sitting there with babies and children? Mother's Day, hey? Yeah, Christmas. First thing I'd say is, don't feel you have to feel any obligation or expectation of how to be. Don't feel you have to go if you don't want to go. Don't try and please them. Look after yourself. Honor yourself. Self-compassion. Self-compassion. If they can't cope with you not being there or you leaving early, that's their stuff. That is really their stuff. Second thing is the experience we're having in those situations is not caused by the children being around you. It's what you're thinking about it. And people say, like with grief, people say, oh, time heals. Time doesn't heal. It's just our thinking about the situation changes over time. Time doesn't have the power to heal. Nothing has the power to make us feel anything. It's what we're thinking about it. So I wonder what stories or what you're telling yourself about the future or the past that makes those situations more uncomfortable than they maybe could be. So there's a couple of things there about recognizing it's our thinking that makes it difficult. What is our thinking telling us? Is it true? Our thinking is looking outside of us for happiness and well-being. But also, honor yourself in those situations. Do what you need to do. Mother's Day, we just did not connect with any of our family. We just went off and had a day, actually with another couple who couldn't have children, and we just did our own thing. Were our mothers upset? Probably, because they didn't truly understand us, our situation, or how it felt in it. But you know what, at the end of the day, you've got to look after yourself. It's like the airplane situation, the unlikely event, the mask coming down. They always say put your own mask on first before you help other people. It's important we have our needs met. Another question is, how do you cope with feeling bitter and unhappy when the way of life has panned out? As I think it changes you as a person. No, actually, I don't think it does. I personally think it changes us as a person. It changes our thinking. It messes with our expectations and how life should be. It changes who we think we are, who we think the world is, who we think our other people are. But I don't think it really changes us as a person. Because I think often on this journey, most people in life, not just going through this kind of journey, disconnect from who they really are. So I think what I've been saying this evening is about reconnecting to who you are as a person. I don't think this changes you. I think maybe it almost disconnects us even more, gets us more caught into thinking about how life should be, and it's not. And that just disconnects from our true sense of self. So being me, it's about coming back, reconnecting to who we are. Almost going back to basics. That's what I had to do with me, go back to basics. What makes me, I have no idea what I want to do in life, what makes me happy. The old question, people say, well, if you won the lottery, what would you do? I don't know. I just didn't know who I was. Another question is, how do you keep from becoming stale with almost lifelong interests, like playing a musical instrument? It could be almost anything. How to keep the freshness felt in the beginning. Unlike, I imagine, having children who develop in time, have children of their own, and so on, where change is going. Okay, so what this person is saying is, if you have got other interests like playing a musical instrument and things like that, how do you keep it fresh? Because they're saying if you had children, imagine that would stay fresh by default because children are changing and growing. They have children of their own, so the whole journeying of that thing keeps it fresh. There's different stages, and it keeps it fresh. And if you haven't got children, you have other interests. How do you keep those things kind of fresh? It's like motivation. What keeps you motivated in those interests? The thing is about motivation. There's two types of motivation. Again, I could do a whole evening on motivation, but just briefly, there's two types of motivation. There's extrinsic motivation. It's external factors, effectively a carrot or a stick, punishment or reward, as a way of motivating someone to do something. Or there's intrinsic motivation, which is your own internal motivation. So, in fact, I'm laughing because growing up, we were quite a musical family, but it was very much extrinsic motivation. There was punishments if we didn't practice our instruments, and there's rewards or if we did pass the exam and things like that. But the most powerful motivation is our intrinsic motivation, what we're passionate about, and lighting that kind of fire. And there's a couple of factors about intrinsic motivation. I'll run through them very briefly. One is purpose, in fact. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why playing instruments? What is it you enjoy about it? And that's a powerful question to ask in anything. Why? Why do you do what you do in your job? I know why I do what I do. It's tied into my story. I do coaching and helping people find a life of passion and purpose because I know what it's like to be dead in the world and not enjoying life, going through the motions but wondering why there's something missing. And I like to help people find their sense of passion and purpose. I do what I do because I like to be self-employed and be in control of my own hours. I do what I do because I like to choose what work I take on and don't take on. Because actually that's the second thing about intrinsic motivation is autonomy. Again, going back to, I lost my passion of playing instruments because I didn't have much autonomy. I was told when to practice, how long to practice for, what pieces to play. That really, my motivation dropped when I wasn't allowed to explore the music I enjoyed. It was exam pieces. Didn't have autonomy over it. So having more autonomy about what you do is a key to motivation. Another thing is challenge. Having a challenge, something, a goal or something to aspire for. So playing an instrument, maybe another piece of music you would like to master. Or maybe there's a concert you can, or something, a performance you could put on, or audition you might want to go for. So having challenges can help with that intrinsic motivation. Third one is we've got purpose, autonomy, challenge. Another one is novelty, making it fun. So choosing music you enjoy. And there's things about playing an instrument, a lot of things, it's like a mastery model. There's going to be times you feel you're making progress and you're enjoying it. There's always going to feel times it's like wading through treacle. To master something like an instrument, it's about keeping going through those flatline times. Knowing it's an upward curve, flatlined, upward curve, flatlined. It's mastering is about keeping going during those times when it feels like you're wading through. And it's accessing those intrinsic motivation in those times to keep you going. So let's give you some kind of things to think about interests. Motivation comes from within, needs, sense of purpose, why you're doing it. Challenge, autonomy, novelty. Other questions come in is, how do I break through the acceptance block that I have? I want to accept my childlessness because I want to move on, but I can't accept it because I don't want it to be true. I wrote an email on this actually this morning. I might read it out in a minute, but yeah, I don't want it to be true. Our lowest point, my wife started going through this grieving process, but she didn't want to get to the other side. She didn't want to accept the situation because she didn't want to be someone who didn't have children. She didn't want to be someone who had children. She thought accepting meant giving up the journey. But acceptance is not giving up the journey. I'm just going to, bear with me while I'm going to find this email. I wrote about acceptance today actually in an email. I want to share that because I think it'd be more succinct and clear if I read it. Here we are. Because I talk a lot about acceptance. That's why I wrote this email. I talk a lot about acceptance. Now, what's right to ask, what is acceptance? What do I mean by acceptance? And in summary, I would say acceptance is not accepting failure. Acceptance is not accepting things will never change. Accepting is what it is today. Knowing that nothing can predict the future. So it doesn't mean it's never going to change. Now, your situation with your children may never change, but how you feel today may change. Acceptance is not fighting reality because you think it needs to be different or should be different. I'll say that again. Acceptance is not fighting reality because you think it needs to be different or should be different. Acceptance is recognizing you don't need things to change to be okay. It doesn't mean you wouldn't like things to be different, but having a preference for things being different and needing them to be different are two very different things. Having a preference for things to be different and needing them to be different are two different things. When something comes a need, that's when the fear and desperation of things not happening kick in because we think we need it. It's almost as if we need oxygen. Acceptance is recognizing your well-being is not dependent on circumstances. It comes from within you. Acceptance is recognizing you don't need things to be a particular way to be okay. You are okay. You may not feel that, but you're not feeling your circumstances. That's impossible. You're feeling or thinking about your circumstances. Inside you, you have innate well-being. You are born with it. It's a birthright. The loving, creative energy behind life doesn't make anything defective. You are okay for who you are now. You are made of this divine energy of life. You are pure love. You don't have to prove, earn, or demonstrate your worth. You are pure love. Acceptance is accepting you are okay, that you're loved and lovable for who you are. And you can create a awesome life of passion and purpose from this place because you are awesome. That was my email this morning about acceptance. I'm very conscious of the time, so I think I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your engagement. And I would like to invite you, anyone who wants to continue this conversation, I'll talk to More to Life about how we can do maybe more of these or what I can do to continue to support you. But in the meantime, I just want to say if anyone wants to continue this conversation, I'd like to give you some time. If you think I can help you, if this has resonated with you in some way, I'd like to give you some of my time so we can continue that conversation. If you think I can help you, get in contact. I'd like to give you an hour, 2 hours of my time so we can really begin to set you on your way to finding your life of passion and purpose. Because I know this is a really big topic. I'm not sure a webinar can really do it justice, but I'm hoping it's begin to point you in some kind of direction, give you some tools and thinking about things in a different way that maybe begin to open the crack up to see actually maybe you can begin to explore who you are and what it can be to live a life of purpose and passion, to really discover what can light your fire. So thank you for listening. Please do feel free to get in touch directly. Let me show you how you can do that. You can either contact via my website, or my email address is russell at thefertilemind.net. It's Russell, RUSSELL, at thefertilemind.net. You can find more about More to Life on their website that's shown there. And if you have found this useful, say this is purely voluntary, I've given my time for the charity. And if you find it's been useful and you'd like to make a donation, you can do that via More to Life's Just Giving site. If you'd like to give just even the price of a coffee, then it's going to help More to Life do more things to help people find a fulfilling and happy life when circumstances haven't gone as people hoped and expected. So thank you for your time again. Thank you for your questions and contributing. And yeah, I look forward to maybe continuing the conversation with you at some point. And please do get in contact if you've got any questions or any comments or anything you think I can help you with. And I look forward to maybe connecting with you sometime in the future. Take care.